I wasn't trying to snoop. That's the part one keeps circling back to. Started off normal, even sweet, in a way. Our anniversary was coming up, and I thought it might be nice to go back through our shared cloud album. Pull some pictures. Maybe surprise Harper with a framed print or one of those little photo books she used to love. The kind she kept on her desk at work before her promotion. So there I was, half watching the game and scrolling through our synced images on the tablet. I wasn't expecting to find anything, but one photo jumped out at me, fresh from earlier that day. The Vesper on Lakeview. Now, that name probably doesn't mean much unless you live in the area. But around here, the Vesper's got a reputation. It's not just another hotel. It's the hotel. The place you book for anniversaries, proposals, secret affairs. It's upscale, borderline boutique, with that overdone luxury aesthetic that always felt too stiff for us. Or at least that's what I thought. The photo was framed too perfectly to be accidental. The kind of photo you take because you want to remember the details. A black envelope marked Suite 2412, 2 wine glasses with beads of condensation still clinging to the rims, a pair of men's cufflinks. Shiny, silver, engraved, sitting neatly beside Harper's unmistakable makeup bag. My stomach turned. I told myself it could mean anything. Maybe she was surprising me. A setup for a romantic night. That would explain the secrecy, the solo drive this morning, the generic off-site client meeting she'd mentioned. But I kept staring at that photo, unable to breathe right, because the composition felt wrong, intentional. It was framed like someone trying to capture something they shouldn't forget. Curious, or maybe just unhinged, I flipped over to our shared calendar. We'd gotten into the habit of adding everything to it: meals, errands, her work trips, my brother's kids' birthdays. I didn't expect to find anything, but there it was, in her handwriting, a full week old. Prep with G. Vesper, 2412. I stared at that line for a solid minute. Gee. I knew who that was, Grant Whitaker, her boss. Technically, her supervisor, though from the way she talked about him, he was more like a mentor. Or a visionary. Or the only man in the office who really understands what strategy looks like. I'd heard that more than once. I thought back to the last few weeks, maybe months. Harper had started blocking out entire days on her calendar for client strategy intensives. Tuesdays, usually. Always in the same district, near the waterfront. I'd even noticed how she started locking her phone more. Using new focus modes that muted texts when she was deep into prep. The way she used to respond instantly to anything I sent, even if it was just a dumb meme or a dinner question, had slowly faded into delays. Hours sometimes. Then radio silence. The past few months had blurred together. We'd both been busy, her with expansion projects, me with closing a contract at my firm. But I'd chalked it up to stress. You get tired, you disconnect a little. It's normal, right? Still, I couldn't ignore what was in front of me. I opened our banking app and started scanning for anything that didn't line up. I don't even know what I was expecting to find. But almost immediately, something jumped out. A $640 charge from the Vesper Spa. Marked as a couple's escape experience. The date? Today. That same damn key envelope timestamped just a few hours before. The world got weirdly quiet. I scrolled further. 2 separate Uber receipts, both under her business account. One for early morning drop-off at the Vesper. The second, 11:47 p.m. Drop-off again. Same hotel. Not coming home. No return trip logged. Still, there was no message from her. No check-in. Just a scheduled Instagram story she must have queued earlier. Harper and 2 other women in a university conference hall. Captioned, "Empowering panels and authentic connections, speech balloon sparkles, #women in strategy, #networking on campus." It was all staged. She hadn't just lied. She'd orchestrated a different version of her day entirely. A cover story, complete with photo ops, hashtags, and even an email she sent me before leaving. Maze. Sorry for the late reply. Big day ahead. On-campus panels all afternoon. Then might have a quick offsite with Grant Re vendor RFP. We'll call you later if it doesn't run too late. Love you, Red Heart. I sat back, letting that last line hit me harder than it should have. I don't know how long I stared at the tablet. Probably too long. I kept telling myself it didn't mean what I thought it meant. That there could still be a rational explanation. That maybe it was some weird coincidence. Maybe the room was booked for business. Maybe the wine glasses were for a post-meeting celebration. Maybe she was trying to surprise me. But then I thought about the little things, the kind of things you don't notice until they start forming a pattern. The way she'd started hitting the gym more. Not that I minded, but it wasn't for health, not really. It was targeted. Toned arms, new leggings, and those tiny travel-sized dry shampoos that started showing up in her purse. Expensive perfume samples she never used around me. I thought about the digital keycard she'd recently added to her wallet app Vesper Hotels. She brushed it off as a backup from a girls' brunch she forgot to cancel. But it was still there, active. I thought about the corporate reimbursements she'd quietly filed, claiming charges for client hospitality that lined up way too neatly with the same district, same parking garages, same coffee shops. I remembered once spotting a receipt in her car, a $34 cappuccino and wine order at 10:30 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I remembered how often she spoke about Grant, how his name came up in conversations that had nothing to do with work, how she quoted him when making personal decisions, how her tone changed, softened when she mentioned him. Still, I wanted to be wrong. I needed to be wrong. I picked up my phone and stared at her last message. Don't wait up. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. My mind kept playing out scenarios, rationalizations, excuses, lies I hadn't seen until now. It was like opening a box in the attic and suddenly finding a trapdoor underneath it. What hit the hardest wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that she'd created a story where I was the distraction. The overworking husband. The one she had to lie to because he wouldn't understand the pressure she was under. She hadn't just hidden her tracks. She'd rewritten the map. The next morning, I woke up in a haze. I don't think I'd really slept. It was more like I blacked out with my eyes open. My brain stuck in some cruel loop of, what if I'm wrong? And what if I'm not? Harper still hadn't messaged. No check-in. No apology for being out late. No sorry, babe, I crashed at Claire's. Just silence. The kind of silence that fills in every blank space with suspicion. By noon, I was pacing the kitchen. My coffee had gone cold twice. Every time I reached for my phone, I'd stop myself. Like texting her would somehow make it worse. Or make it real. That's when I opened my notes app and started writing things down. Not to confront her. Not yet. I just needed to see it all in one place. To know I wasn't losing my mind. And once I started, I couldn't stop. Focus modes. She started using them 6 months ago. Claimed she needed them to deep work without distraction. At first, I admired her discipline. But then texts went unanswered. Calls rang twice, then dumped to voicemail. And if I asked why she didn't respond, I got the same script. Oh, I forgot I had it on. Password changes. She'd never hidden her devices from me. Not until lately. I'd glance at her phone and see a new lock screen. Biometrics disabled. She even set her laptop to auto-lock after 30 seconds of inactivity. Something she never used to care about. Tuesdays. Always Tuesdays. She started calling them intensive strategy days. Gone from morning until evening. No photos, no details. Just vague remarks about realigning cross-functional workflows or whiteboard mapping new partnership tiers. A lot of words that said nothing. Ride receipts. I remembered her joking once about how Uber's automatic billing helped with expense reports. But the logs were oddly consistent, always to the same district near the waterfront, and always back to our place after 11 p.m. If I asked about dinner, she'd claim she ate during the workshop. Digital hotel keys. That Vesper key in her wallet app? It wasn't a one-time glitch. I checked the activity log. She had added it twice in the past month, then removed it within 24 hours. Not once, twice. Fitness kick. I thought it was normal. Everyone's trying to reclaim their health post-pandemic. But she didn't just get fit. She started curating herself. Pilates, cardio bar, clean eating, collagen supplements, new skincare routines. reshaping her wardrobe from comfortable creative to structured sleek. Dresses with bolder cuts. Blazers she used to call int asterisk mid-8ing. Everything sharper. More curated. Less. Her. Client presentation looks. That's what she called them. Got a client pitch today, she'd say. Grabbing the outfit she once wore for date nights. Red lipstick reappeared. The same one she wore the night we got engaged. She stopped asking me if it looked okay. She didn't need my validation anymore. Reimbursement claims. I'd helped her organize her tax documents last year. That's how I noticed the subtle changes. Meals listed as vendor discussions, wine bar receipts, rides tagged with vague names like strategy cohort, external, hotel day passes, all filed under her department's learning and development budget. Hotel toiletry kits, travel-sized shampoos, body lotion in Vesper branding. At first, I figured she was bringing them home from company offsites, but they didn't line up. She hadn't traveled since March. And yet, there they were, 3 miniature kits stashed in the inside pocket of her purse. Less time at home. Her evenings became unpredictable. Late call with the Seattle team. Emergency budget review. Mentorship circle dinner. Some were probably real. But her voice changed when she told me. It always sounded rehearsed. Not nervous, but precise. Like she'd practiced the alibi. I stared at the list. I don't know how long. Long enough to feel stupid for ignoring what had been right in front of me for months. It wasn't just one thing. It was everything. And the final piece? Grant Whitaker. Her supervisor. Her sounding board. Her North Star, if you believed the way she talked about him. He was in every third sentence when she got home. Grant said this. Grant pushed us on that. Grant thinks I'm ready for a senior title. When I'd asked if he was married, she shrugged. Yeah, kids too. His wife's some kind of private wealth advisor. She said it like a disclaimer, like it somehow made him safe. But there was a shift in how she described him. Subtle but there. Less boss, more partner. Not in the relationship sense, at least not overtly, but in the way she deferred to his opinion. How she lit up when she talked about the way he saw the big picture. The compliments she used to reserve for me had been rerouted to him. She once told me he had the best instincts of any leader she'd worked under. I laughed at the time and said, "Don't let him steal you away." She didn't respond, just smiled and kept applying her mascara. I remembered a dinner we had 3 months ago. One of the few times she wasn't booked. She kept checking her phone during dessert. I joked that her job had married her before I did. She smiled weakly, then said, "Sorry, just waiting for Grant to sign off on something." It was a Saturday night. The same night I saw her phone light up with a message preview. "See you Tuesday, let's finally make time for the long convo." No name, just a G and a wink emoji. She'd deleted it before the screen timed out. I remember thinking it was probably harmless. A scheduling thing. But now it felt like a breadcrumb I'd swept under the rug. And still, despite all this, I hesitated. Because admitting it, saying out loud that my wife, the woman I'd built a life with, might be cheating, that still felt unreal. Like an accusation I wasn't ready to level. Not without more. Not unless I was absolutely sure. So I went searching for sure. I grabbed the family tablet again. The one we barely used anymore, except for vacation photos and the grocery list app. But it was still synced to her cloud account. And while she'd locked her phone, she hadn't thought to sign out of the tablet. A few taps brought me back to the photo that had started it all, the one from the Vesper suite. I checked the metadata. The location pinged exactly inside the hotel's 24th floor. But something caught my eye, the live icon. It wasn't just a still image. It was a 3-second clip. A glimpse into the moment the photo had been taken. I tapped. The image moved. The glasses clinked. The frame shifted slightly. A voice, hers, laughed in the background. And in that brief motion, the cufflinks shifted just enough to reveal a small engraving. G.W. My chest tightened. I paused the clip and rewound, frame by frame. Harper's hand, her unmistakable gold ring, was visible in the edge of the sh*T, resting lightly on a man's shoulder. A bare shoulder. That wasn't prep. That wasn't off-site strategy. That was something else entirely. By the time I finished watching that 3-second live photo for the 10th time, my hands were cold. Numb, like the blood had stopped circulating. I knew what I saw. There was no more guessing, no more rationalizing, no more waiting for it to somehow make sense. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't inventing scenarios. I was just late to a truth that had already unfolded without me. Her hand, Harper's hand, resting so casually on a man's shoulder inside a hotel suite. His shoulder bare, his posture relaxed. Her voice laughing, soft and an asterisk mate in the background. The engraved initials on the cufflinks, G. W. weren't some coincidence. I didn't need a name tag or an introduction. It was Grant. Of course it was. I stared at the still frame again, hoping for some sign that maybe it was staged, or old, or a misunderstanding. But no. The timestamp was crystal clear. The evening before. The same night she told me she was at a panel. The same night her story ran a scheduled post from a conference room across town. And it didn't end there. I should have stopped. I should have walked away from the tablet and let it rest. But something in me, maybe the part that wanted to watch the whole lie burn, kept going. I checked the cloud's file sync history. Most of it was routine stuff, PDFs, shared grocery lists, that dumb app we used to track bills. But then I found a folder I hadn't seen before, titled Drafts/Workalt, as if it had been renamed to blend in. Inside, a single email thread, forwarded from Harper's corporate address to her personal one, accidentally copied to the cloud. I don't think she realized it synced. The subject line read, Folio guest log, confirmed guests, Suite 2412. My heart dropped. It was from the Vespers reservation system, a formal receipt confirming the guest list tied to the suite. Grant Whitaker was listed as the primary booking. Harper Lane added as an authorized occupant. And at 11:02 p.m. an update timestamp showed a third guest added to the digital registry. Additional key issued. Third device synced. Harper Lane iPhone. She didn't just visit him. She spent the night. I read the email 3 times. I don't know why. I guess I thought repetition would make it sink in slower, soften the blow. But each pass only cut deeper. And then the final nail. There was an AirTag. Months ago, I'd added one to Harper's travel kit. Not to spy, not for control, just to keep track of her luggage after that New York layover mess. She'd tossed it into her overnight duffel and clearly forgotten about it. I opened the Find My app, barely breathing. There it was. A clean, uninterrupted line. Location Vesper on Lakeview Hotel. Duration 17 hours, 42 minutes. Zones accessed. Suite 2412. Wellness Level 4. Lounge bar. Roof terrace. Time stamped through the night and into late morning. The signal stopped transmitting the moment she returned home. Precisely 1 hour before I found the wine glass photo. It was done. Whatever flimsy scaffolding my denial had built, it collapsed right there. The overlap was too precise. Photos, receipts, email confirmations, location pings. It was like watching the credits roll after a horror film. Names, timestamps, details all lining up to show you exactly how long the monster had been in the house. I remember standing in the kitchen, tablet still in hand, watching the location blink in real time as she sat upstairs on the couch, casually typing emails. She looked so normal, like nothing had happened. Her face blank and unbothered, eyes fixed on some report, probably copying Grant on half of it. I knew then that I couldn't just confront her. Confrontation was for amateurs. For people who still thought this was something they could talk through, cry over, fix. But this wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. It was architecture. Deliberate. Cold. She built an entire second life and wrapped it in white lies, schedule conflicts, and focus modes. And worse, she thought I wouldn't notice. So I did what I never imagined I would. I started documenting everything. *TS, synced folders, PDFs of the receipts. I downloaded the Vesper guest list and forwarded the AirTag route log to my work account. I took stills from the live photo, slowed them down, cropped them carefully, and dropped them in a folder labeled Archive. Not rage. Not revenge. Just clarity. If she could be methodical, so could I. And then, maybe out of instinct, or maybe because I wasn't the only one being lied to, I searched for her. Alice Whitaker, Grant's wife. I'd only met her once, briefly, at a charity auction. She was sharp, composed, the type of woman who made you stand up straighter when she entered a room. She also happened to be the controlling trustee of Northbridge Analytics, the firm both Harper and Grant worked for. I remembered Harper mentioning it months ago during dinner, something about a family trust and voting shares. I looked her up again. Public board filings, trustee profiles, articles. One note stood out. A side interview she did with a leadership blog about zero-tolerance ethics policies in corporate governance. Her words, not mine. That's when the idea took shape. Not to ruin Harper, not to hurt her, but to force the truth into the light. I called a friend, someone in compliance at a rival firm. Asked how these things usually unfolded when there was, say, a suspicion of fraud or inappropriate conduct between executives and direct reports. His answer? If you want it on record, don't go to HR. Go to the top. Quietly. So I compiled everything into a single PDF, titled simply, Timeline Vesper/Lane/Whitaker. I didn't add commentary, just evidence, dates, documents, **TS, location logs, context that didn't need narrative. The facts spoke louder than I ever could. Then, late that evening, while Harper was upstairs watching some productivity podcast on double speed, I sat in the living room and sent a single message to Alice Whitaker's private business email, the one listed as the trustee contact on Northbridge's compliance page. No subject, just a note that read, respectfully submitting information for immediate review. Please see attached timeline and linked records. You'll find everything you need. I'm sorry you're seeing it this way. I know how this feels. I signed it simply, Mason Cole. I hit send. Then I sat in the dark, staring at the screen until the message disappeared from my outbox. And just like that, the match was lit. I didn't sleep that night again. I don't think I even blinked for hours. Just sat there on the living room couch, waiting for some kind of fallout, some acknowledgement, some ding of retaliation or regret. But nothing came. Upstairs, Harper slept like nothing had happened. I could hear her faint snoring when I passed the staircase around 3 a.m. I stood there for a moment, staring up into the darkness, hand gripping the banister. In some other version of reality, I might have walked up and shaken her awake, demanded the truth, demanded tears or some form of confession. But I already had the truth, and I didn't need her permission to believe it. I went back to the couch and opened my email. Nothing from Alice. I tried to imagine what it was like on her end, opening that message. Reading through it in the privacy of some study or kitchen or whatever corner of her world still felt stable. Did she know already? Did she suspect? Or had my email been the first real fracture in a carefully balanced delusion? I didn't know, but I didn't have to wait long to find out. At 4:16 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Manhattan area code. I answered without hesitation. Mason Cole? The voice asked. Calm but taut. Female. Yes. This is Alice Whitaker. Just hearing her name said aloud knocked the air from my lungs. She didn't sound panicked. She didn't scream or break down or threaten me. Her tone was composed, lethal in its precision. I received your file. I'm not going to ask how you got it. I'm only going to say that you were right to send it. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry you had to. Don't be, she cut in. I've suspected for weeks. I just didn't have proof. You gave me more than I expected. There was a pause. She sounded like she was walking. Movement in the background, the click of a door shutting. I'm taking it from here, she said. Please know this will be handled immediately and without discretion. She meant that last part. I could tell. This wasn't about marital betrayal anymore. This was about something bigger, something corporate, strategic, surgical. What do you plan to do? I asked, not out of curiosity, but because I needed to hear it said. She didn't hesitate. There's a private investigator on retainer. Our legal team has already requested access logs from the Vesper. Digital entries, security footage, concierge call records. Their compliance manager owes me a favor. All corporate charges on Grant's accounts have been frozen. HR will receive preservation orders before 9 a.m. A temporary lockout protocol is being issued to IT. She paused. A room has been booked at the Vesper under my maiden name. I'll be arriving there with my children and private security within the hour. I leaned back, stunned. That's fast. No, she said sharply. That's prepared. You don't get to be married to someone like Grant Whitaker and not keep contingency plans. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't used to this level of precision of control. Thank you for coming forward, she said finally. I won't contact you again. The line went dead, and I just sat there in the quiet, holding my phone in the dark, trying to catch my breath. What followed in the next few hours didn't feel real. It felt like a machine turning on. A massive engine roaring to life, gears snapping into place with ruthless efficiency. Alice didn't wait. She didn't stall or threaten or whimper. She executed. By sunrise, security at the Vesper had been briefed. Grant's digital key was deactivated. Any files Harper had uploaded through Northbridge's VPN? Frozen. Corporate-issued devices flagged and traced. A discreet legal observer from Alice's firm had already arrived in the Vesper's lobby by the time the morning concierge staff took over. She hadn't even needed hotel footage. The spa confirmed dual appointments under Grant's name. A bill had been signed. Digital signature matched Harper's ID. The evidence was no longer circumstantial. It was procedural. Back at our house, Harper remained blissfully unaware. She came downstairs in leggings and a hoodie, sipping her smoothie like it was any other Saturday. She kissed my forehead, asked if I wanted eggs. I said I wasn't hungry. She didn't press. It was surreal, watching someone carry on as if their entire world wasn't about to rupture beneath them. Her phone buzzed once, a short alert. She glanced at it, frowned. Weird, she muttered. My calendar just glitched. I nodded. Probably nothing. But I knew exactly what it was. Alice had already initiated access revocation protocols through Northbridge's admin servers. Grant and Harper's names were being wiped from rosters, from project notes, from internal dashboards and Slack channels and Zoom meetings they no longer had permission to join. A new calendar was being built. One that didn't include them. By 10 a.m. Northbridge had released a quiet but clear internal memo. Effective immediately, an interim transition team will assume oversight of ongoing strategic operations. An independent review of past travel, expense, and vendor approvals is underway. No names, no drama, but anyone paying attention knew exactly what it meant. I watched Harper scan her phone again, confusion slowly replacing her usual confidence. Something's up, she said under her breath. My access is gone. I just got booted from VPN. Slack's asking for new credentials. She looked up at me then, like I might have an answer. Did the network go down? I shrugged. Not sure. A beat of silence passed. I'll call Grant, she muttered, stepping out of the kitchen. I watched her leave the room and knew she'd find nothing on the other end. His number would still work for now. But what he'd say, that I couldn't guess. Maybe he'd spin it. Maybe he'd plead ignorance. Or maybe, just maybe, he'd already been escorted out of the Vesper in front of his children. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. I opened my laptop and refreshed my email. A new alert had arrived. A press contact bulletin. Northbridge had just updated its leadership page. Grant Whitaker's photo was gone. Harper's department, grayed out with a placeholder icon. And beneath that, a small caption. To ensure transparency and rebuild trust, we have appointed Alice Whitaker as acting executive chair. Effective immediately. There it was. The reset. And all I could think was it started with one call. One moment of clarity in a room full of lies. One email, one folder, one message sent before the sun came up. I looked over at the kitchen counter, where Harper's phone sat face down, buzzing quietly again. And I thought, she has no idea what's coming. Not yet, but soon. By noon, it stopped being subtle. Harper was still glued to her phone, pacing the back patio like a tiger in a glass cage, waiting for someone, anyone, to give her answers that made sense. She kept refreshing her inbox, force-quitting her calendar, double-checking the company Slack where her name used to ping a dozen times an hour. Now, nothing. Like she'd never existed. "Something's wrong with the whole system," she said, more to herself than to me. "It's not just me. Grant's offline too. Everyone's freaking out." She looked at me again. "You didn't hear anything from your side, did you? About Northbridge?" I kept my voice steady. "Nope. Should I have?" She gave me this half-confused, half-worried look, like she was trying to piece together a puzzle but couldn't find the corners. The thing was, she didn't realize yet that there was no puzzle anymore. Just ashes. By 1 o'clock, the official channels kicked in. Northbridge released a second memo, longer this time, sent out across every client distribution list and internal department alias. I only saw it because a friend from their vendor team forwarded it to me. Subject line: "Bro, you seeing this?" The message was clinical. No emotion. Just clean-cut surgical language that made it clear someone very powerful had taken control of the steering wheel and slammed on the brakes. Effective immediately, Northbridge Analytics has suspended all corporate credit cards and restricted access to strategic initiative documents pending a comprehensive audit of project-related expenses and executive travel approvals. Several leadership transitions are underway to support an ethics-first culture during this review. It didn't name names, but it didn't have to. Everyone inside would already know who was gone. And everyone outside? They'd figure it out soon enough. Harper came back inside around 1:20, visibly shaken. Her face was pale. Not confused anymore, just hollow. "They pulled me from the vendor portal," she said. "I can't log in. I can't submit anything. My keycard access is invalid. I tried to call HR and got redirected to legal. Mason, what the hell is happening?" I shrugged again, keeping my expression mild. "I thought it was just a networking day." She flinched at that, just for a second. Then she looked away, like she'd swallowed something bitter. That's when her phone lit up again. A call from a blocked number. She hesitated, thumb hovering. "Answer it," I said softly. She did. The conversation didn't last long. She stayed quiet mostly, just nodded, said yes a few times. Then understood. Then silence. When she hung up, she didn't say anything. Just stood in the middle of the kitchen, frozen. "They want to schedule a call," she finally said. "With legal. An audit. Monday morning." I didn't ask what for. She already knew I knew. But she still couldn't say it out loud. Meanwhile, Alice moved like a ghost through the company. Invisible but undeniable. You couldn't see her hands, but you could see the strings being cut. A second wave of internal changes dropped that evening. All badge access to senior-level offices revoked. Private conference lines disabled. VPN admin privileges suspended. Remote access wiped from mobile devices tied to inactive projects. Slack channels archived. Meeting rooms reassigned. Project leads anonymized or relabeled interim. At one point, someone tried to find Grant's calendar to reschedule a call. There was nothing to reschedule. The IT logs showed a time-stamped purge of all future meetings, tasks, and shared files connected to him. Same for Harper. It was like they'd never been there. Like the system itself was purging their presence in real time. Even I couldn't help but marvel at it. Alice hadn't just moved fast. She'd moved silently. No press leaks. No scandals. No posts on LinkedIn. No headlines. She didn't torch the place. She vacuum-sealed it, removed the infection, and stitched the wound shut before anyone outside even knew where the bleeding had started. I knew it was her because the strategy was familiar. Clinical. Cold. High-level containment with just enough institutional gravity to keep the whole machine turning. But make no mistake, this was personal. Alice wasn't just protecting a brand. She was reclaiming it. And Grant? He didn't even put up a fight. From what little I heard, and from the emails quietly floating between vendors and former colleagues, he didn't make a statement, didn't try to justify anything. He just disappeared. Like he'd already planned his exit the second Alice stepped into the room. Which made me wonder, had he done this before? Was Harper the first? Or just the last? That night, Harper barely spoke. She sat on the couch with her laptop open but never typed a thing. I watched her try to access internal portals over and over, like maybe if she refreshed them enough, someone would decide to let her back in. I said nothing. The flash drive was already in my desk drawer. Every receipt, every calendar entry, every photo, every shred of metadata she hadn't thought to scrub. I'd already sent a copy to a personal attorney. Not because I wanted to sue her, just because I wanted to be ready. By midnight, she broke the silence. Did you know? She didn't look at me, just stared into her glass of wine like the answer might be hiding there. I didn't say anything. She nodded slowly, like that was an answer in itself. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she said after a long pause. I almost laughed. This far? I echoed. You booked a hotel suite under a fake pretext. Spent the night. Filed reimbursements under company code. Lied about where you were. Posted fake stories. Changed your calendar. Synced your schedule to a man who isn't your husband. So tell me, Harper, where exactly is too far? She didn't cry, and that's what sealed it. She didn't fall apart, didn't break down, didn't even reach for me like she wanted to fix it. Because deep down, she knew there was nothing to fix. She'd already left. Her body just hadn't caught up yet. The next morning, I made 2 lists. 1, things I owned before the marriage. 2, things we owned together. I started packing. Not out of rage, out of preparation. Out of clarity.